The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Cisneros, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we passed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2020. Working with my colleagues for over 20 hours on the House Armed Services Committee to mark up this bill in the late hours of the night and early hours of the next day was all worth it. Mr. Speaker, with this passage of this year's NDAA, we have fulfilled our duty to ensure our military's readiness, strengthen our national security, and ease our service members' transition to civilian life. I am proud to have helped secure 17 floor amendments to the NDAA, with more than half of those offered on a bipartisan basis. These provisions supported programs that are critical to service members living in the 39th Congressional District. As a major priority of mine is ensuring that our service members have the support they need when they transition back to civilian life. I was proud to co-lead the bipartisan Work for Warriors provision with my colleagues, Representatives Paul Cook, Elisa Slotkin, and Mark Takano. The Work for Warriors model has a proven track record of helping our veterans find jobs, providing job placement assistance to unemployed guardmen, reservists, military spouses, and veterans, not only help them provide for their families, but also facilitate their successful transition back to civilian life. Another priority of mine was to improve the quality of health care for service members, especially mental health programs and women's health care services. I am proud to have secured a number of provisions that take care of military families by expanding military housing and improving access to health care services. Specifically, I was proud to work with Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan to expand transition assistance for women service members. This will ensure our servicewomen are better equipped with the health care resources they need as they leave military service. Also, I am helpful that the amendment my colleagues and I included to address sexual assault at all levels of our military will help our service members and veterans receive the respect and justice they deserve. The high rate of sexual assault in the military is unacceptable and needs to be addressed immediately. Even though DoD spends millions on sexual assault prevention programs, the number of assaults has jumped dramatically since 2010. We owe it to our service members and veterans to determine why the current programs have been failing, and we need to create a new effective approach to this problem. Because in exchange for their service, our nation took on the responsibility to care for each service member's health, both physical and mental. That's why I prioritize provisions to address the suicide epidemic currently facing our service members and veterans. We are losing service members and veterans to addiction and suicide at alarming rates. It is unacceptable that this epidemic is only getting worse. I worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to secure language that will help prevent service members from reaching at-risk status and ensure that at-risk service members are identified and able to receive the care they deserve. Also, I am proud to have supported an amendment with Congresswoman Jackie Spear to protect our transgender service members. As a Navy veteran, I was saddened by our government's willingness to discriminate against individuals who had the courage, spirit, and commitment to serve our country in uniform. Anyone who has the bravery to serve our country should be allowed to do so, and I stand firmly against the administration's ban on transgender service members. I will continue to fight against this hateful and bigoted policy until the President and his administration understand that transgender service members have the right to their dignity and they have the right to serve. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the NDAA reaffirms our constitutional authority over the use of military force. With this provision, Congress reasserts our congressional authority and its duty to our country and our service members. And it makes clear that the President that there is no current authorization to use military force against Iran. We understand how Iran destabilizes the region, and it's our responsibility in Congress to ensure that the U.S. does not enter into a conflict without a strategy. In closing, while I have said much on what this House has accomplished with this bill, I would like to end with this. Thank you to our service members, civilian military personnel, and all the national security professionals that support our armed services in my district, in our country, and around the world. It is an honor to represent you in Congress, to ensure the promises made here are kept for our service members and our veterans. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.